Hello, I'm Dr. Joel Klenck, an archaeologist trying to prevent a cultural atrocity, namely the total destruction of Noah's Ark by decomposition due to a melting glacier and permafrost and the continual looting of the site. Now, another method to find historic properties that archaeologists use is to study trails or pathways to provide clues to the location of a property. In this case, Noah's Ark, the most important structure ever. So now we will discuss trails and pathways that Armenians use that again focus on the southern gorge of Greater Mount Ararat and their approach to Noah's Ark. Here's that same satellite view of the southern side of Mount Ararat, showing the southern gorge marked with a red dot in the center. And we're going to have many photos of that southern gorge and the location of the Ark. Now, here's a topographic map of Mount Ararat showing the former Armenian trails associated with Greater Mount Ararat. Why do we have so much knowledge about Armenian trails? Because the United States has a significant Armenian population, especially in California. And current Armenian populations in the U.S. know the trails, but a lot of them, especially the newer generations, don't know the reason for the trails. Now, there were many routes to Noah's Ark used by the Armenian population, but the trails concentrated on two main routes. The first route was from the east, and here you would travel from Ahura and Takalti Dagi in the northeast of Greater Mount Ararat, and then take the trail south. Then there was another approach east of Lesser Mount Ararat, and right near what is the Iranian and Turkish border, namely in the area of what they call Toysuk Dagi, which was like a little hill. And there were several small hamlets, Sehoba and Kishlak. And you took this and then you moved around the north of Lesser Mount Ararat to meet the trail that was coming from Ahura south. Now there was also another trail that moved, that started southeast of Greater Mount Ararat, and here you had several villages: Karniyurik, Beiro, Sele Kishlagi, Segerdan, and all these trails merged into the main kind of conduit, which is Serdabulak. Or the parties, sometimes they moved to prevent discovery of the Ark, because this was a very secretive affair, to Kekere, which is on the western side of the southern gorge. And then the parties all moved west from Serdabulak, or from Kekere, into the southern gorge, and then from there to Noah's Ark. Now, the second route to Noah's Ark was from the south. And this was longer, but much more gentle. It was a very gentle climbing route, and it was highly preferred. This was the most preferred method to reach Noah's Ark. And here, you could either go from the villages in the southwest of Greater Mount Ararat, and here you would start from Cheverme, Yusufagil, or Tulu, which was formerly called Ortli when it was occupied by Armenians, and Miragil. Now, south of Greater Mount Ararat, there was another group of villages: Hamzaki, Chelal, Kanikork, Shiflik, and Botagil. And all trails merged at Eli, or what they called Elucidated, in the south. And Eli is continuing to play a prominent role. and then from Eli that you move through Inekiulya or Inekisufla into the trail from Eli. And these two little hamlets are no longer there. But and then all of these coalesced when they moved from Eli through Inekiulya and Inekisufla toward the northern part of the southern gorge. And where these would go is that the trail moved up and then around and then into the gorge. So the southern or the eastern trail moved over the ridgeline into the gorge, but this routing from Elucidated moved around the top of the gorge and then went south or went down into the gorge. So it was an easier pathway to get to Noah's Ark. Now, in total, there were 7 Armenian trails from around Mount Ararat. But these all concentrated in the southern gorge in a relatively flat area that was large enough for the ark to rest and gentle enough slopes to let Noah and his family and the animals descend. And this area follows the Armenian maps and iconography showing the ark at the top of the southern gorge, was at the top of the southern gorge, and just beneath the summit of Greater Mount Ararat. And we will show you the exact location to show you the exact location of Noah's Ark and how aptly this fits into not only the iconography but also the different trails. Now, in modern times, only one main trail exists on the southern side of Mount Ararat, forming what they call the Federation Trail. Now, this trail moves from Eli, or formerly Elucidated, to Base Camp 1 and 2, and then to the summit of Greater Mount Ararat. Now, there are other trails to the summit, but these are not used. And trails from the north and west do not extend to the southern gorge. Now, why is that? Because the Turkish and Kurdish populations do not know the location of Noah's Ark. As noted in another discussion, Armenian populations led high-ranking Armenian religious, military, political, and business leaders and trusted foreigners to worship at Noah's Ark. Now, no one is going to Noah's Ark. The focus is on sport climbs to the summit of Mount Ararat, so the focus on getting into the southern gorge is no longer relevant because everyone is climbing to the top for the sport climb to the summit of Mount Ararat. Now, some maps show a single trail across the northwest side of Mount Ararat. Now, this is a decoy route to misdirect others away from Noah's Ark. As we discussed, this was an Armenian method to misdirect people away from the location of Noah's Ark to prevent the Ark's discovery. Also, I've encircled or made several black circles on the map, and these represent cliffs. I mean sheer drops where even the ice cannot hang onto the rocks. So if you went over, you followed this alleged route, you would fall to your death. Now, further, as discussed, this area was too steep, too small for the ark to rest, as noted in the Qur'an and the Bible. And it was also too steep and hazardous for Noah's family and the animals to descend with peace, as stated in the Qur'an. Now, this is not to say that Turkish gendarme, the Gendarme Militarisi, or the military police, or the PKK forces, or former Armenian guerrillas do not or did not use the steep pathways, or maybe no pathways, to move around the mountain. They did, and they still do. However, before Turkish occupation of eastern Anatolia, the individuals that the Armenians led to Noah's Ark were not young, strong warriors. No, they were older, overweight, and weaker individuals that had high religious, military, social, or business ranking, within Armenian society or were trusted foreigners that would never reveal Noah's Ark. Now, the Armenian guides would lead these individuals that were measurably weaker up the easiest and most convenient routes to Noah's Ark in the southern gorge. So let's review. Noah's Ark is very large, around 175 meters in length. It is on the southern gorge on the southern side of Mount Ararat. Only here there is enough room for the ark to be able to rest, as mentioned in both Genesis and the Qur'an. It's on relatively flat ground, again, allowing the ark to rest. And it's only here it provides a peaceful descent for Noah, his family, and the animals to descend the mountain. Now, while Moses notes the ark is on the mountains of Ararat or Urartu, the Muslim prophet Muhammad qualifies the location as being Al-Judi, or the highest one, which is Greater Mount Ararat. It's the highest mountain in Ararat, in Urartu, and indeed all the Near East. Now we know from a previous discussion, all old Armenian and European maps of Mount Ararat show the two types of iconography. First, that the ark, Noah's Ark, rested on a flat area under the summit of Mount Ararat. And number two, Noah's Ark was at the top of the southern gorge. And now you have the former Armenian trails that all lead to the top of the southern gorge, to a flat area just beneath the summit of Mount Ararat. And this follows what we see in the Armenian maps and other types of iconography.